Hey guys, June here, and in this video I want to take a look at something that's often overlooked when it comes to crafting a strategy for DPS, which is the ability Revenge. It's simple to use but has a really wide variety of applications, so let's take 2 quick seconds to talk about how it actually works. It's a defensive threshold ability, which means we need 50% or more adrenaline to use it, and it's going to drain 15% of that adrenaline, and furthermore it requires us to be wielding a shield, which is something that we're not commonly associating with dealing DPS well. However, in this rare circumstance it can actually mean more outgoing damage than without. Revenge lasts for 20 seconds, and during this time most hits dealt to the player add 1 revenge stack up to a cap of 10. Each stack adds 10% to your maximum hit, which means the range of potential damage values is going to get much wider, and your outgoing damage is going to become a little bit more susceptible to RNG, but on average when you're fully stacked out you should be seeing about 50% more average damage. Like most defensive abilities, this effect is cut in half if you're using a defender instead of a shield, and we'll make a comparison between some different formats of gearing later on in the video. Just to go into a bit more detail about what contributes to these stacks, obviously all enemy auto attacks will, including ones that get blocked. Any typeless damage from special attacks that can be reduced with defensive modifiers, so for example the Bleed from Hellweir, the Vitalis Orb at Virago, all of Telos' special attacks, and anything else that you can reduce the damage from with abilities like Reflect will also contribute to these damage stacks. However, the typeless damage that is immune to modifiers, such as Red Bombs at Virago, Nex's Ice Prison, or any kind of self-inflicted damage like from Onslaught or Tendril abilities will not contribute to your damage stacks. So with all that in mind, the real criteria for whether or not this is a useful strategy at whatever encounter we're doing is how quickly we're able to build up to maximum revenge stacks. The easiest way to do that is if we have an encounter with several enemies attacking us at one time, like all of the bosses from God Wars Dungeon 1, or Greg when he summons Shadows, Beastmasters if you're tanking several chargers, Telos when he summons Golems, or multi-target Slayer tasks like Abyssal Demons with Chinchampas as an example. In other cases like with Hellweir, you not only have a passive effect of bleed damage, which also contributes to those revenge stacks pretty quickly, but a special attack Frenzy, which has a very rapid attack speed and can help build up that revenge. This is by no means an exhaustive list of all the places that you can employ revenge, but hopefully by now it's pretty self-explanatory where you can utilize it effectively. So now that we know where we're going to use it, let's talk about the 2 ways that people commonly do use it. The first is you can treat it kind of like a distinct damage boosting ultimate, so let's just say for example we're using magic. We can start by using our Sunshine and doing a normal Sunshine rotation, which would last either 30 or 38 seconds depending on if we're using a planted feat switch. After Sunshine's worn off we can use Revenge, and with its duration of 20 seconds the cumulative total length of the 2 of them together is 58 seconds, which means our Sunshine comes back off cooldown just 2 seconds after Revenge wears off, and we can repeat that cycle indefinitely. This method gives us the best outgoing damage overall, however it does require the fight to be relatively long, so this strategy wouldn't work well for example at God Wars Dungeon 1 where the total fight duration is going to be 10 to 15 seconds. Instead, for those cases what we want to do is actually stack our Revenge and our ultimate on top of each other. With both damage boosts stacked together, you'll routinely be hitting the damage cap, and this is a common strategy for doing record kills at God Wars Dungeon 1 and at other short bosses. There are of course some more specific ways to use Revenge, like at Telos for example where you exclusively use it when he summons Golems on phases 4 and 5, but these are the ways that it's commonly used as part of a DPS strategy. Now let's quickly talk about some different gearing strategies, since there are a few different things that change the way that Revenge works. I've got the 2 most common gearing setups on screen now, and I want to compare Acto with Power Armor for an offhand, a defender, and a shield so we can decide what the best choice is going to be for us using Revenge. For the sake of simplicity, we're going to ignore things like prayer and potions and just look at the base damage values and revenge. Just at the start we can see that power armor is going to give us better damage with an offhand or with a defender, but Acto is going to give us better damage with a shield. If we add in the modifier for revenge, assuming we're at max stacks, the best base damage output we're going to get is from using power armor along with a defender, despite the fact that the defender only gets half the damage bonus from revenge itself. This will also naturally have higher damage output than when using a shield because it gives you access to the dual wield abilities like Needle Strike for example, which are a very important part of building an ability rotation. This also works great if we're doing the strategy of separating our damage boosting ultimate from our revenge, because we can use our offhand alongside our power armor to get the best damage output during our damage boosting ultimate, and we can use our defender alongside our power armor for the best damage output during our revenge. If however we're already using Acto, say for example we're base tanking at Beastmaster Durzak or we're doing very high enraged Telos, then we're actually going to get better damage output with Revenge when using a tier 90 shield. The distinction between tier 90 shield and defender when using Acto is however very small and might be offset by the fact that you don't have access to those dual wield abilities like Needle Strike. So that's an awful lot of theory, but now let's take an actual look at a rotation in action. This is me and some friends at Hellweir, and because there are so many of us, I'm going to be stacking my ultimate on top of Revenge because this is going to be a short fight. So I used my ult on spawn, and right when Hellweir does his first special attack, I'm going to swap to my defender and resonance it. That not only gives me a nice heal, but it incurs the damage over time effect, which is going to help me stack up Revenge, which is what I use next. Shortly after that, Hellweir uses his Frenzy special. I usually swap to Melee Prayer and use Reflect to recoil some damage back to him, and by now Revenge should be fully stacked out, so this is our opportunity to really start cranking out the damage. With all these boosts stacked up, your Wild Magic Anger Asphyxiate is well within the realm of hitting in the 10 to 12k range, and so Hellweir should drop very quickly. Hopefully that gives you guys a good idea of how to start putting these strategies into action. Special thanks also to God's Paladin, Born for Slay, and Zero Control for their generous support on Patreon. As usual, if you guys have any questions, drop them in the comment section below and I will do my best to answer those for you. Thanks again to everybody for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.